doubted to believe it.
Hello everyone, welcome to Statisfaction. This is Nick Koloski, your host. As usual, we're looking ahead to match day 11 when Wolverhampton Wanderers come to Anfield in search of a win against us, which they haven't done so yet, as it pertains to be. They are unfortunately without Raul Jimenez, who suffered a fractured skull in a collision with David Luiz against Arsenal a few days ago. So best wishes and speedy recoveries to Jimenez. Probably not going to be seeing him for the foreseeable future as it pertains to be in the Premier League or football in general. So we hope him and wish him all the very best. Now, in saying that, our Liverpool Reds, we are also shy of some players. I think I saw a post the other day which had basically a goalkeeper, 4 defenders, and I think 3 or 4 midfielders good enough to take it on with the best. I think we had Alisson in goal. We had Trent at right back. Left back, I think, was Milner, even though he's not really a left back. Van Dijk and Gomez, obviously, centre backs. A midfield of Thiago, Chamberlain. Who else we had? Naby Keita. I think there was someone else. There was one other player. I can't remember who else is in. I think it was a Shaqiri, actually, come to think of it. It might have been Shaqiri. So, hey, man, when it rains, it pours. And at the moment, it's absolutely bucketing down for Liverpool fans. But yeah, we're still doing okay. Qualified for Champions League through to the round of 16. We've got Wolves coming up next. Win that, we go up, and we take first, has to be said, in the Premier League, as Tottenham Hotspur are first at the moment. We would then surpass them clearly, but they are in a little matter called the North London Derby, as it were, happening this weekend. But we're here to talk about Liverpool, so let's get on with the latest when it comes to the Liverpool team news. And as we can see there, we have Wolves at home. I'm going to get into the players soon, so don't need to worry about that section there, which is the team news. But as we can see here, Liverpool have won the last 7 matches against Wolves by an aggregate score of 15-2. So in the last 7 matches, Wolves have only scored 2 goals against us, and Jimenez not being their central striker because we took their secondary striker, a well-known Portuguese fella by the name of Diogo Jota, who is his birthday today at the time of recording this. Happy birthday, Diogo. Hopefully you score a goal against your former team and not celebrate, because apparently that's what we do these days. We don't celebrate when we score against our former teams. But in any case, not here to talk about that. That's what's happening at the moment. But it says he can become the 4th player to score in his first 5 Premier League home matches for a club after Alan Shearer and Les Ferdinand at Newcastle and Jermaine Defoe at Portsmouth. So that's big news there. Wolves, has to be said, did pull off a scalp last season. They did the double over Manchester City. 2-0 wins at Manchester City, both games. And it says they could become the 3rd team to win away against the title holders in consecutive campaigns after Liverpool in 2000-2001, ironically enough, and 01-02, and Spurs 16-17 and 17-18. I don't know how Spurs manages to fall into that equation because it says title holders. So I don't think Spurs are in there. I think that's meant to be Leicester. So Leicester that won 16-17? Yeah, I think that might be a Leicester thing. I'm trying to think now. Yeah, I don't think that's great. I don't think that's Spurs. I'm sure that's Leicester. Or it might be Manchester City or Chelsea. Who the hell knows anymore? Don't know. Don't care. In any case, Neto has scored 3 goals in 10 Premier League appearances for Wolves this season, as many as he scored in 29 matches in the competition last term. So he will probably be their outlet when it comes to them scoring goals in Jimenez's absence. Now, just quickly before we go on to the team news and what Klopp said in his presser, it says referee is going to be Craig Pawson, the assistants Lee Betts and Richard West, the 4th official of Andy Madley. VR is Jonathan Moss, and VR assistant Dan Robertson. So if we know anything about VAR over the last, I'd like to say 2-3 weeks, but it's more likely the last maybe year or so, that it hasn't been as free-flowing as maybe we would have liked it to be. VAR, we know, is a little bit contentious. It's not always the smoothest thing. It's not always the most clear and precise thing, even though it tries to be, namely with the offsides, with arms being offside, when you can't score from with an arm from an offside position and things like that. So dare I say, there will be some dubious calls to be had this weekend. Maybe not in the Liverpool Wolves game, but just in the games in general. I can see that North London derby being a tasty one to say the absolute least. Now, let's move ahead and check out the team news, because this is probably going to be a short one. But as we can see here, possible lineups for Liverpool, and it has to be said, we must talk about the potential players we will have, because Jurgen Klopp had his pre-match presser only about a half hour from after recording this, or before recording this, I should say. Mixing up my words, it's been a very long day. I feel like I always say that. But he basically said that the only players who were injured who will be back in contention, maybe not to start, but to at least have some part in this game, were Trent Alexander-Arnold and also Naby Keita. The rest of them are still cactus, kaput, on the sidelines, unable to make any sort of appearance, namely James Milner, who got injured the other week. Chamberlain, good news for him is he's slowly back in training, so he's slowly making his way through, although he won't be seen for some time. It also has to be said that Thiago is looking most likely to feature in the new year, and it's almost been forgotten that we actually have this playmaker who is absolutely fantastic on the ball, and we've only seen him play all of, 2 games so far this season. So a bit of sad news on Thiago. There's debates as to whether he should have stayed on the pitch after copping that tackle from Richarlison, or the kneecap scraper from Richarlison in the Merseyside derby. Arguably should have been taken off, but then again, we might not have had the controversy that we had at the end of that match with VAR once again. Who would have thought? But in any case, we're talking in relation to Wolves here. So those are the 2 players who could be coming back into it. No one else seems to be ready or in contention, so we're probably going to see a similar lineup to what we saw last week, and not so much last week, rather the last match against Ajax, in which case the main notable change in there is the goalkeepers, because Alisson, of course, is out for up to 14 days with a hamstring problem. Nothing too serious, but serious enough to keep him on the sidelines. So that's where Kelleher will continue in goals, and he had a fantastic game against Ajax only a few days ago, kept a clean sheet, pulled off some decent saves, and is looking well suited to take over that Liverpool goalkeeping position for the meantime while Alisson is out. Adrian, unfortunately, will drop a place and become the 3rd choice goalkeeper, but that's football sometimes. It doesn't always go your way. You need to perform, and when others are performing better than you, hey, you miss out. It's the facts of life, unfortunately. But in the back line here, Robertson was said to have picked up a bit of a knock in the Ajax game, but seems to be okay. He had his ankle taped up at one point. I think it was his ankle, as Peter said in our post-Ajax podcast. If you haven't listened to that, go back to the podcast, listen to it. It's a very entertaining show, only about half hour long, so it won't take up too much of your time. And Robertson is maybe not a doubt. I do think he will start, but he's one of those players we should be really looking at with a close eye to make sure he doesn't get injured. But again, we've got Tsimikas who can take in that left back position, and that's why we signed him, isn't it? To have an actual left back playing left back for a change. But Robertson seems to be trucking along just fine. Matip, well, I think we said it. This is the first game Matip has played consecutively in the 3-4 years he's been with the club. I think he's only played a consecutive 2 or 3 games, one after the other, maybe once or twice beforehand, something ridiculous like that. I mean, for a player who's still in his 20s, I think he's 29 years old, he's younger than me. I think he's 29, could be wrong. But again, a player so young and yet so injury prone, it boggles the mind. But he'll most likely be starting alongside Nat Phillips, who is unavailable to play in European competition because he was not registered, because we all thought we wouldn't be needing Nat Phillips in for the Champions League, but here we are. He'll probably play, in which case that means Fabinho will be allowed to venture forward into the midfield role, hopefully taking over for Gini Wijnaldum and giving him a bit of a breather in this match, and maybe bringing him on later in the game when we need some solidity, or we need someone to hold the ranks alongside Fab and Henderson perhaps, or maybe Klopp may give the whole team a reshuffle. Trent Alexander-Arnold is expected back in training. I think his full training session is going to be today, so we'll see how he pulls up. If he doesn't, we're probably going to see Nico Williams. I prefer Nico. It sounds nicer. Nico Williams at right back, doing what he does best. And after having a fantastic game against Ajax, coming together with Curtis Jones for that fantastic cushioned finish by Jones himself. The two young lads combining for a goal together. So good news there for the youngsters of Liverpool. Now, midfield, as I mentioned, Fabinho will probably go into that midfield role if he's not going to start on the bench. I think Fabinho will probably go midfield because he can actually run around. He hasn't been running around as much in that defensive line. That's not to say he doesn't run around at all, which he does, but there is less moving between left and right, up and down when it comes to being a defender than when it is to being a midfielder, roaming and trying to sweep up and clean up everything around you. So that may give Wijnaldum a bit of a breather and have him on the bench, which I think he well and truly deserves. And I said it in our post-Ajax pod. He's one of our most important players, top 3 at the moment in terms of importance. And if he ends up injured, we will be in a shit ton of strife in the middle of the pitch because he is the hardest worker there. Again, it's not to say none of the other players work hard or anything like that, but strictly for what he does, there is no one better than him. So Gini Wijnaldum, may the Dutch gods be on you and you stay healthy for the season. And now that I've said that, something bad's going to happen and everyone's going to blame me. Such is the rules. That's how life works, I guess. Jinxing people. Henderson, fantastic outing as well. The instructions he gave to Neco Williams in the Ajax match was great to hear. You can hear him moving along the sidelines, in his back roll, in his midfield, guiding him through, making sure he's calm, doesn't get put under pressure, knows what to expect, knows what to do. So fair play to Jordan Henderson, the captain that he is. You know, people may argue that he's not the most skilled midfielder or he's not the most skilled footballer out there, but what he lacks in maybe raw football talent, he sure as shit makes up in leadership and his determination on the pitch. So Jordan Henderson, thank you very much. Now the forward line, this one's going to be interesting. The prediction here from whoscored.com says Liverpool are going to start with a 4-2-3-1. They may start with a 4-3-3 and rival Wolves' formation, which is 4-3-3, but we'll get to Wolves in a second. In saying that, what do you do with our forward line? Do you start Diogo Jota, who, although hasn't scored in a game against Ajax, scored against Brighton the other week? Do you start him against his former team? Because he'll be amped, he'll be fired up to play. There's no doubt about it. Diogo Jota will want to play against Wolves, and I don't know what it is about every player that plays against their former team. They always want to score goals against them as if to show them this is what you missed out on. But Diogo Jota didn't leave on bad terms. So obviously he's going to want to score because he plays for Liverpool now and Liverpool need the goal, so he will score the goals for Liverpool. In saying that, how he approaches this match, I don't know. Neither do you. Neither does anyone, to be completely honest. So is he going to play the lone striker role? Is Salah going to play that lone striker role perhaps? Because he had a stinker against Ajax, didn't have the best of games against Brighton as well. Got subbed off. Mane came on. He was not a happy chap at all. And I think it's safe to say that Klopp is looking at players, and it doesn't matter who you are, what your name is, how many goals you've scored. If you're not performing when you need to be, you'll be taken off and someone else will be put in your place. And I think it's put the whole team on notice. And that's why we brought Diogo Jota, to give those front 3 players something to think about when it comes to performing and playing well. And if you're not playing well, you'll be subbed off. We've seen it with Roberto Firmino. A dip in form, hasn't been the best. He's come off. Jota's come in his place. He scored a whole bunch of goals already so early in his Liverpool footballing career. And the guy's already one of those cult heroes like Divock Origi was. Oh, sorry, Peter. Divock Origi, greatest legend that ever lived for Liverpool FC. Sorry, let me get that correct. And that's a joke, by the way, if you're listening or watching. It is a joke. But again, Jota putting pressure on the front 3 that we have. Now we have a fantastic 4 or Fab 4, whatever the term is that we're calling these players. But all the same, we've got talent. Mane, Firmino, Salah, Jota. You start all 4 of them. Most of them played against Ajax. Do you play them against Wolves? I think we said in our post-Ajax podcast that you go full strength against Wolves. You get the job done. You try to get it done nice and early. You can take some players off. Only 3 players, and Klopp had something to say about the 3-player sub rule as well, because there was a vote with the, I think the club committee or the club members or something to that effect, and it didn't fly. It's still 3 subs only. The usual thing of, oh, it's an advantage to the other teams who've got better players, and Klopp's basically saying it's not really an advantage if I don't have the superstars to put onto the pitch. If we had a full-strength Liverpool squad and we had no injuries whatsoever, Klopp would have the biggest headaches when it comes to picking a squad. He wouldn't know who to pick. He'd have his starting 11 in his mind, but at the same time, you can't leave 2 or 3 players on the bench consistently. They're too good to be left on the bench. In which case, then it does become a bit of a positive, a bit of a in my favour type of thing if you're coming from Liverpool's point of view. But again, with like Steve Wilder, for example, for Sheffield United, who are dead last, worst start to a Premier League campaign ever, 9 games or 10 games, one point, something ridiculous like that. I can see why he would say it's a disadvantage, but I've gone off on a tangent. I'm meant to be talking about players and the subs. Starting a full-strength team, we get the job done nice and early, 60th, 70th minutes. Hopefully we're up by a few goals, and we can maybe take 1 or 2 of our forward line off, maybe a midfielder off, and then put someone else in place and see how we play. It might not be a 4-2-3-1. It might end up being a 4-3-3. Curtis Jones had a fantastic game against Ajax. He might be in the middle of the pitch again in place of maybe Wijnaldum. He may have Fabinho sitting with Henderson roaming and Curtis Jones being that creative player. He may start Firmino on the bench. Maybe Mane will be on the bench. Jota may start left. Firmino down the middle. Salah on the right. It may swap. It may be Mane who's come off. It may be Jota left. Salah centre. Someone else on the right side. And then Firmino sitting back. It's not going to happen, I don't think. But there are possibilities that can be had. We still have Minamino on the sidelines. Everyone knows he needs to be given a proper go. But again, in saying that, potential starting lineups, I really don't take these things for gospel because you never know how they are going to end up. But it's potential. It could happen because I think, as we're all aware, Gomez is out, Van Dijk is out, Alisson, goalkeeper, out for a week or 2, Thiago out till probably 2021, Robertson doubtful, but I think will play. Trent is the question mark. We're going to really have to wait and see what happens with him. Jordan Henderson, I think he'll play. He'll be all right. Chamberlain is back in training, so probably not going to make it for the bench for this game. Maybe in a couple of weeks' time, we shall see. Shaqiri, I don't know what the hell's happened with Jordan. He's fit and healthy and playing well one week, and then he's copped an injury the next. I mean, for someone who's so big, who's like a mini Schwarzenegger, the power cube, he gets injuries a lot. And I think he's had abdominal or back injuries. Maybe he's deadlifting too much. Maybe he's trying to crunch, too much weight with medicine balls. Whatever it is, dude, just calm down. You are the power cube. We trust in you. We trust in number 23. Anyways, James Milner out as well. Had a bit of a hamstring injury, I think he was. So that's about 3 weeks, 4 weeks at the most out as well. So we shall see what happens there. Now, for Wolves' sake, as we mentioned, Raul Jimenez copped a very bad injury against Ajax. Against Arsenal, both teams starting with A, only the other week, and he will be out for foreseeable future. Don't know how long he's going to be out for, but it is going to be a very long while. Had a fractured skull, and David Luiz also copped an injury, who got subbed at half-time, I believe, for Arsenal. So they will be without a recognised striker. As we said, Jota's come to Liverpool. Jimenez was the other striker that they had, but they do have Neto, who has scored 10 goals this season so far. Podence up front. We all know about Adama Traore and his pace and the bulldozer that he is. He can definitely run out of defence, and he's caused City some damage in the past, but Manchester City are Manchester City. We are not Manchester City. We are Liverpool Football Club, so we will approach things a little bit differently. The midfield, of course, is always good. Moutinho, Neves, Dendoncker. Arguably a very solid, well put together midfield. Their backline, Semedo, Bolly, former Liverpool youngster Connor Cody, and Marchal. I don't know how you pronounce that. C with the little J underneath it. So all very capable players, and Patricio in goal as well. Been in the Premier League for a couple of seasons now, so they know what it is about, and they are no easy beats because they are coming 7th. They are 7th in the league. We are coming second only on goal difference, I believe. 6 wins, 3 draws, 1 loss. Wolves, on the other hand, 5 wins, 2 draws, 3 losses, 21 to 17. Not much of a points difference, 4-point gap in between. As it stands, we have beaten our long standing, what's it going on now? 3 years, going on 4 years. undefeated streak at Anfield, 64 matches. This will be 65, I think it will be, when it comes to being undefeated. I'm pretty sure Leicester was the 64th match to tie it, or the 65th to bring it up. I don't know, whatever it is. We've surpassed that now, so we are the longest winning streak Liverpool team in history, I think. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going off my noggin memory there, so it could be definitely incorrect in that instance there. But in saying that, bit of stats time. Liverpool undefeated in our last 43 home matches. That's 43 home matches in the Premier League. But at Anfield in general, it's been 64 matches where we have not lost. I think Premier League wise, that's something ridiculous. We've won 8 of our last 10 matches against Wolves in all competitions. So again, that's a nice little bonus there. There have been over 2.5 goals scored in Liverpool's last 6 home games in the Premier League. Again, scoring goals and conceding goals, because that counts for the opposition. Again, we have a defensive problem, which has been tightened up. We've had a couple of clean sheets, a couple of decent wins. And again, as Adam McCullough said a couple of weeks ago on the on Rory's little post-match pod, I forget Rory's last name. My apologies, Rory, if you ever see this part of the kickoff crew, that Liverpool not having the defenders that they normally have has given the opposition a bit of a, not license, but a bit of a freedom to say, let's actually attack them, because they don't have that good of a defense. But they forget that we still have a midfield and a forward line to rip any team apart in world football. And I think that works in our favour. So it gives them a bit of a false sense of security, because we can zip them and hit a counter-attack and score a goal. Now, Liverpool have been winning at both halftime and full-time in our last 3 matches against Wolves in all competitions. All bodes well. But in saying that, Wolves are a bit of a plucky team, because we know how good they can be. We know how good they are. They may have lost a decent player in Jota. He is now a Liverpool Red, such as it is. I don't know what the score's going to be. I avoid giving predictions because I hate being that person, because I end up looking either like an idiot, or if I get the score correct and it turns out to be out of our favour, I look like the bad guy. So I'm not going to give you a score prediction for this. Not by a long shot. But Wolves, 2-1 win against Arsenal. But then again, it is Arsenal. They've got their own problems. They can beat teams in the Europa League, no problems. As soon as it comes back to home in the Emirates Stadium, it all falls to bits, and it's not really the best news for Arteta and his Arsenal team. But in saying that, Arsenal had some fans in their stadium for the Europa League match this past morning, or last night if you're listening in UK or overseas, which means that Liverpool also are allowed fans at Anfield for the first time since, March? April? Whatever it was? Seems like a very, very bloody long time ago that now. So 2,000 fans are allowed to attend Anfield to watch us play against Wolves. It could make all the difference. Klopp said in his pre-match presser that he normally played in front of 2,000 fans when he was playing in the lower leagues of Germany. And he said 2,000 fans can also make a lot of noise, and it's not what you would expect to be a small crowd. It is a small crowd numbers-wise, but you don't want to really get on their bad side, because 2,000 people can turn on you real quick. I've seen it in a way coming out of active support in the A-League in Australia football, in the top tier competition for football in Australia. And when there's 1,000 or 2,000 active fans on your back, it can feel like there's 55,000 hounding you. So don't let the numbers fool you. 2,000 is still a decent amount of people, and they're going to be watching Liverpool play, something that we can't do, that we haven't done. Who knows if we're going to be able to actually do that ever again. But 2,000 fans, lucky enough, will be watching Liverpool take on Wolverhampton Wanderers at 6:15 p.m. kickoff, which is Sunday evening. For us in Australia, it'll be, 7:15 Monday morning, I think. Not bad. Can go to work and listen to the game whilst driving, and celebrating and screaming while listening to the BBC commentary, because that's how I listen to the commentary when driving to work. There are ways around it. But yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. Actually went longer than what I expected. I actually thought I'd be maybe 15 minutes. I've gone on for about 25 minutes, but that's what happens when you are me and you can just keep talking and making somewhat sense when you are trying to do a solo podcast. And I enjoy Statisfaction. It is my own little creation. Hopefully you enjoy it. It seems to be a solid little earner in the podcast rankings when it comes to the shows. And of course, if you're not subscribed to the podcast, please do so. LFC Couch, it's listed. We go down here, LFC Couch. Yep, there's Twitter, then there's YouTube, Facebook. It's all on there. And subscribe to the podcast. Find us out, interact with us by all means. We are the largest Liverpool dedicated podcast in the Southern Hemisphere. We have done so many great things. We are going to do so many greater things. I'm going to leave it at that. If I've forgotten something, my apologies. My brain's just completely gone AWOL. It is 12:30 a.m. as I record this Friday night, Saturday morning Sydney time, so it's way past my bedtime. Have a great weekend, and may we see the Reds prevail once again against Wolverhampton at Anfield, those lucky 2,000 people, and may we regain top spot of the Premier League after Tottenham either draw or lose to Arsenal FC.